So the first thing I would like you to do as you do this is you're going to look at this graph here. The first thing you do is you're going to have to find the point of where it's going through the process of freezing.
I can tell you right now.
Okay, I know. It's individually. Now, where it's freezing, you need to write the average temperature down of what's called the freezing point. That's your freezing point. Where it's freezing, you're going to have to look at your graph. And what I would do is I would look at your table, because your table, where it says solid/liquid or both, that's where it's probably freezing or melting. Does that make sense? So you guys should have your table in front of you. Every 2 minutes you're recording. Look at your table versus your graph, or comparing the two. Find where freezing and melting, or I guess not freezing, but the solid and liquid phase are together. Because that's what's happening at that point. Where you have a solid and liquid together, you're either going to have freezing or melting happening. So find that point, and then write it in on your table where it says the transition of what the temperature is between liquid and solid. Write that temperature down. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, you also need to do the second one where the transition is going from a solid to a liquid. And again, when you look at your descriptions off the side, if you did a good job of that, then you're going to be able to state what that is, temperature-wise. When it's going from a solid to a liquid, or melting. So write that average temperature down. And the third thing is going from a liquid to a gas. So that's the very end of your graph. Now up here, it's not this end of the graph. That's where they took it out. Okay? But it's this portion of the graph.
That's where it's...
That's where it's going from a liquid to a gas. Right here.
boiling.
Yep. Yep. That's what boiling is.
Yeah.
Boiling.
Condensation.
Right. Boiling is, there's a really complicated definition of boiling, but boiling is where you have a lot of evaporation happening all at once. Okay? Questions? Now, this is what I need you to do. This graph is divided into different stages. A through I, you need to identify different portions. So I'm going to give you the first one. Right here. Guess what's happening there?
It's cooling down.
Water is cooling. So you'll circle that section and say,
Cooling.
label it A. Does that make sense? Second one. Listen. The second one is where on your graph do we have freezing start? Actually, if it drops below the line, it hasn't. It's not doing that process yet. It's not until it gets on the line it starts that process. And it's kind of unique because on some of yours it dips and then it goes back and then it's a level line, right? Okay, so it's the funny thing about freezing, it actually has to get below the freezing point before it starts freezing, and it's a super cooled liquid at that point. It's actually lower temperature of that liquid than the actual solid. Okay, because when solidification happens, it's a process of actually warming in a process. It's kind of goofy to think it's warming, but anyway, you need to label. Now, every portion of this graph needs to be labeled A through I. You got to find those transitions of where.
A through I.
Yeah, down below, there's a description. A is cooling of liquid. B is the start of the freezing point. C is the end of the freezing point. D is cooling of a solid. E is warming of a solid. F is the starting of the melting point. G is the end of the melting point. H is a liquid heating up. And I is where it's going from a liquid to a gas. That's
Right.
You need to identify that on your graph. Then answer the 4 questions in the back. Answer the 4 questions on the back. They should be pretty easy because they kind of correspond to something we've already done. Yes, ma'am?
Mine's weird. It only goes to number 4 and it doesn't have anything in the back.
Okay, I need you to get the one that has the 4 questions on the back.
I was like, you're reading them off, and I was like, I don't know.
Is this, there you go. And just staple that on. Do the best you can with that. I will grade it. It is a summative grade, so
Holy
take your time. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Then I need you to get a sheet out for me.